This is Wendy with the Kraal, and you're watching another episode of Chop and Talk. And this is a space where we discuss topics related to Africa and Black affairs. And today, we're gonna dive into another great topic. But first, I'll let my lovely ladies introduce themselves to you. So ladies, let us know who you are.
Okay, well, I am Ellen Osei, and I am the CEO of the Class Network, which is a organization, a mentoring network actually, that focuses on empowering young aspiring leaders and entrepreneurs as they discover their power, develop their passion, and fulfill their purpose. And I'm also an occupational therapist, currently a doctoral student at Columbia University. I also have a nonprofit for children called Raising Hope. I like to save the world. That's my thing.
I love it.
Hi everyone, my name is Audrey Apia. I am currently in the finance sector. I work in insurance. My resume isn't as long as Ellen here.
It's all good.
But you know, I do hope and aspire to change the world someday.
Yes.
Right.
Well, welcome ladies, and thank you so much for joining us today. So the topic for today, y'all ready?
Okay.
It is colorism.
Okay.
And we're gonna just get right into it.
Okay.
So first of all, how did colorism affect you in your childhood? And how has that even changed as you developed as a young woman?
It's a big one because growing up, especially the time that I was growing up, there was no such thing as chocolate. Chocolate wasn't in. Being dark skinned wasn't cute, and I was bullied a lot. I was around, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, middle school, that was the time of the African booty scratcher. So I was the African booty scratcher. And I didn't think I was beautiful. I had low self-esteem. I did bleach my skin. I would go find products in my mom's in her room or different places, and I would put it on my face, and then when people were like, "Oh, Ellen, you look like you're getting lighter," I was actually excited about it. I was like, "Oh wow," I'm like, that's I was happy. And then at that time too, contacts were in, so I would go downtown Newark and find color contacts, literally anything I could do to change what I looked like and look more like what was in, the light skin, girl with the long hair. That's what I was trying to be. And I always felt like people didn't see me because I was dark skinned. And it's so funny how now it's just growing into a woman and growing into really loving myself and who I am. All that has, completely changed. I love being chocolate. I want to be darker actually now. I purposely go to the beach and I just lay there because I just want to just bask in my skin. And it's because I'm so much more confident in who I am. I feel like I've gone on this journey of just discovering the inner workings of myself, why I didn't love myself at the time, why I struggled with that, and I wouldn't want to be anyone else right now or look any other way. So,
wow,
it was serious.
Wow.
Wow, I kind of feel the same way Ellen does. In the time that we grew up, of course, chocolate wasn't out there, wasn't on the media. There wasn't any Lupita, so it was kind of hard to see ourselves, as beautiful women being dark skinned. And especially for me, having a light skinned mother. My mother's very fair skinned, so if you see her, you're like, wait, is this your mother? Are you sure? I always got compared to her, and it was like, why'd you come out so dark skinned? And I've had ignorant comments such as that, just comparing me to, my mother, and I'm just like, it made me feel insecure. Like she said, there were certain times when I felt like, oh, maybe I should bleach, and I even did try that, hide it under the fact of, I'm just trying to even out my tone kind of thing, let me just use this so my skin would just be more beautiful. But really these products had a lot of bleaching things in them, and they were making my skin lighter, just like you said, and people were looking at me like, oh, girl, you're glowing, and it also made me feel, good in a certain way, but I realized soon after that it was just so unhealthy. it's funny, at a certain point when I was bleaching myself, I'm like, I look kind of crazy. Like I wasn't happy with what I was seeing. My skin color was kind of distorted in a way. I'm like, what am I doing, you know? And so I just had to come to a place where I was comfortable in my own skin. Of course, it wasn't easy. I feel like times have definitely changed over time. You know, we're definitely empowered and more enabled as Black young women to be proud of our skin color right now in this day and age. And you know, I'm happy to see that, but of course, as we were growing up, it wasn't always that easy. So.
It wasn't, and like it's just something about, it's like we had this whole way of looking for everyone else to validate who we were at that time, right? But it's like when you make that switch, and it's like you have your own standard, like you are your own competition at that point. Then it's like there is no, because when you're in that phase of life, it's like you're always striving for something that you'll never get to, because you'll never be good enough for someone else. You'll never be able to meet, you know, society's standards. So it's like fighting a losing battle, and you're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to be depressed. You're going to do things that make you look crazy. And I even realized how much impact it's having on your life. So once you do start to really get to the bottom of why you're doing it, why don't you love yourself, why can't you accept yourself the way you are, then that's where, you know, the transition.
Wow.
Exactly.
So you guys touched a bit on bleaching, so I'm actually gonna jump a little bit and jump into colorism and business, because I believe the bleaching business definitely has to do with colorism. The makeup industry, you know, Fenty came out and it just like, you know, blew makeup industries off. So what are your thoughts on colorism in business and how it affects, you know, Black girls like us?
It's definitely a business. We'll say that. Bleaching industry, makeup products, they're all geared to I feel like kind of make us light skinned and kind of mask ourselves in a way, Black people. Up until recently, where you're kind of seeing different kind of products and different business owners that are kind of tailoring things for our skin color. But before then, I would say that it was definitely not geared towards us or our skin tone. You know, the colors just never really did match, right? But you know, it's changing. I hope that we can kind of get adjusted to that and make sure that we're not, you know, using it as a mask, makeup, you know, for what we really look like. Because sometimes it can happen, especially in this day and age where makeup is so big. You know, we're just changing ourselves completely.
Right. And I think that sometimes, like, I'm sorry, were you done?
No, yeah.
Okay. I think that sometimes it's all about how you use everything, right? So makeup is supposed to be a tool of beauty enhancement. But funny enough, that's what is sold to us. But then when you see these, you know, commercials and ads and things, and before, you know, dark-skinned women were really prominent in these industries as cover girls or, you know, people who are on big billboards, all you saw was, you know, the lighter skinned woman, you know, that had, you know, really bright skin, or anytime you go to get your makeup done, there's never anything that matches your tone, so you're automatically forced to look like a ghost in some respect. And it's like you almost feel like, or even there's been times where I've gotten my makeup done and I would tell them, no, I want to look darker, and they're like, no, why? No, like you're gonna make yourself look too dark. And I understand sometimes for staging and cameras and stuff like that, you have to kind of put on lighter tones in certain areas, but it was almost like people even within our own communities were kind of like frowning. And I think that now, I mean, there's certain people in these industries that are just heartless, that are just like, they know that it's hurting people, and a lot of these chemicals that are in these bleaching agents are not healthy for you, you know, at all. If you notice when people bleach and stuff, skin turns red, you know, different things start to happen to your skin that's not really good, and but they don't care, just like a lot of these industries are out to make money. So I think that the good thing is that there's a more conscious wave happening right now. Like, for example, in Ghana, like, bleaching products were banned, which I think is a huge thing. Not to say that people still don't have access to it and can't really get it on different markets, but the fact that we have like these governmental structures or agencies that are realizing that, you know, that it's an issue that's actually can be detrimental to people's health, and you know, and they're putting a ban to it, I think sends a message that, you know, it's not something that. I just found out that there are bleaching pills that pregnant mothers take because they want their babies to be light skinned. Wow. That is an issue.
Okay.
and when I saw that the other day, I was like, I can't look at this.
Pregnancy?
Like, can you imagine what that can do to your baby? Like, bleaching pills. So now we're going from creams to pills. And you're determining what your baby should look like before your baby can even determine that before your child can even embrace their own beauty. You know, they're being forced to look like something else because there's hatred coming from the mother, even like when they're in the womb. That's crazy.
So with that being said, do you think African Americans, we're so fixated on the Western standard of beauty, that's why we are so quick to, you know, go into bleaching or, you know, issues like this?
Yeah, in a way, I feel like we're really not taught to love ourselves properly, I think, in the Black community and even in the African community. When you think about the term colorism, I feel like it's more perpetuated amongst people of our own color, you know what I mean? I remember in school, there were days when it's like, oh, girl, you know, there's two dark-skinned people, and they're like, I'm lighter than you. Like, we're comparing inside,
like,
and it's like, who's lighter? You know, and that's really crazy that, you know, it's amongst our own people, it's amongst ourselves, so it's something that we have to look at, I think, inwardly in order to fix the problem, so.
But I do feel like it's definitely changing here, like in like within, at least within the United States, and the circles that I've seen, the campaigns I've seen are all about self-love and acceptance, and even the whole natural movement. I feel like now there is more of a message of actually accepting, you know, and loving yourself, and, you know, talking about Black girl magic and really pushing it in a harder way. Now within the African community, I feel it's a little different because with our parents and the older generations, you know, they're not really, I guess a lot of people aren't really a part of that movement or understand that movement. To them, it's like they're still kind of, especially if they're not in touch with technology, they're kind of like still in their old traditional ways. And so what they perpetuate is the things that they learned when they were younger, you know. But us being a lot of first generation Africans that are here, you know, we're seeing that crossover where it's like, okay, you know, they're even like, there's so much more acceptance of us in our culture, and then even African Americans and Africans trying to like come together and, you know, work on projects together that push, you know, initiatives that encourage people to you know, to look back and be proud of the culture, be proud of our skin tone, be proud of our clothing, be proud of everything that we own.
Wow, that's so true. So there's this song, it's an old song by Simone, it's called For Women, and Jay-Z kind of did like a rendition with his new album, and it basically kind of describes like 4 different women, although the content for the song is way deeper, like, you know, from slavery to just different lifestyles that this woman lived. But in that song, the 4 women have 4 different shades. And so my question is, since colorism is really within, you know, the Black community, I mean, it also affects other nationalities. But when it comes to our culture, how can we basically unite those shades, because it's within us that we're fighting this war?
I mean, like I was saying before, I feel like there is a wave that's moving more towards, you know, loving all parts of that spectrum, right? Like of the 4 women, like you're saying. And while there's still a lot of ignorance that's being perpetuated within, it's up to us to be able to, you know, stand as our own role models and be our own representation, and, you know, be in the forefront with, you know, other people that, you know, look like us, that are, you know, of different skin tones, and really send a message of what beauty looks like to us, but just in another, there has to be more ways for us to really get people to understand that we define beauty, you know, and it's not, we're not going by what, you know, society or what popular culture, Western culture defines, but what we as Black people define as beauty. Because when we have that, you know, the discrepancies within us, it's because people are still leaning on that, well, I'm more accepted than you are. You know, like when I'm going out for a job interview, or when I'm going out to, you know, for a campaign or whatever it is, they're gonna look at me because I'm light skinned. So we have to really educate. We have to get people out of this mindset that, you know, that standard is our standard. It's not our standard. We have our own standard within us.
So, sorry, did you have something?
No, I was just gonna piggyback off what she said. I think we have to just blur the lines within our own community. Just do away with all that skin tone-ism that, you know, makes me better than you because I'm lighter. At the end of the day, we're all Black, and so if we can just do that within our own community, I think we'd be much more effective as a whole race coming against, you know, the white standard that try to, you know, downplay our color and our people.
So colorism really originated, you know, from slavery, you know, when the light-skinned slaves were, you know, perceived better, so they were in the homes, had to do at least better, quote unquote, better jobs in this field.
Right.
Slaves who were darker skinned. So do you think that we are still mentally enslaved? The fact that we're fighting colorism, or is it just like an issue that's just surfaced?
Oh no. I mean, I feel like it's been going on. I mean, it's something that is within our history. You know, like from the moment that we came to the United States and we're here, and that separation began, and that, you know, the brainwashing began with, oh, you're better than this one. You know, you get to be in the house. You know, you get to, you know, serve inside. You get to, you know, have, you know, a better place to sleep or whatever it is. And like they caused that division on purpose, you know, because they knew the strength and they knew the power that we had as one. So that division started from day one. It's like these people, no matter what, even if they do get to a point of where, you know, they can talk and, you know, try to rebel or, you know, come out of the slavery situation that they were in, they were going to do anything. They were going to divide and conquer. And that's exactly what, you know, that's exactly where it started, like you said, and that's exactly what they've been doing, and not really, and then us wanting to just be able to be accepted at that point and be able to be free, you know,
just go with it.
Went with it, you know, and it almost became every man for itself within our community, and it's almost like African Americans, we are, you know, as African Americans, and I say that talking about anyone who's coming from Africa or the Caribbean or is in the United States now, it's almost like the bottom of the food chain, and then we're all trying to like the crab in the barrel, you know, mentality where it's like every man for himself. And if I make it, oh, well, I'm sorry. Well, I had better qualifications, you know, maybe because I was, you know, lighter. And sometimes riding off of that instead of standing up against it and, you know, and speaking out and saying when something is wrong, you know. So it's something that has been around forever, and it really just is going to take a lot of education about our history, about where we came from, why this mentality developed, and a lot of just ingraining, you know, in our children and whoever we can now that, you know, beauty doesn't have one shade, doesn't have one tone, doesn't have one look.
Yeah, because slavery is in the mind, right?
Yes, and it's mental before physical, right? Absolutely, I agree.
Do you guys think that colorism in the United States or in the Western world is, you know, a bit different from colorism back home?
I feel like it's intense back home. I feel like back home it's still like that. Funny enough, because people forget that Africa was also colonized. A lot of countries in Africa were colonized. So this whole mentality of, you know, lighter and darker, you know, was happening back home too. And sometimes I get frustrated because people feel like, you know, like we kind of were living our own, you know, happy life, and then back in the U.S., it's like we just kind of left people to be slaves, and you know, and we all know like the division that even happened from that, right? From some of us being left back in Africa, and then, you know, a lot of us being here in the United States as slaves. But you know, we were enslaved in our own country too, but more so mentally, you know, than anything. And then that all started with, you know, people who were, you know, the British being there and having that influence and telling them, you know, what standards to follow, you know, and being in control of, you know, the networks and the images and all of that, you know, that was happening back home too. So, and I feel because a lot of times we can be more traditional, and there's a lot of things that we still follow that are of, you know, our colonial, you know, our past colonial ways, and because there isn't a lot of technology in some of these remote villages and areas of our countries, that there are people who still have this like mindset and still passed on. But then on the opposite end, there are, you know, the Yasantawas of the world that have always been like, no, like we are strong, we are beautiful, we are powerful, you know, and they fight against it. So the division, I would say, is definitely still there. Depending on what generation though. I feel like the younger millennial, you know, up and coming generation is more conscious of that. You know, even if like you see ads and stuff on TV, like I know at least in Ghana, you know, you see a lot of, you know, chocolate sisters, natural hair, you know, people putting down perm.
Yeah, but don't you think that here we have more to contend with in regards to colorism, because we have like a whole different race that we have to kind of go against, up against, where back home everyone is black.
Not everyone. Not everyone.
Majority, I guess, of the population.
Because, I feel like history is kind of trying to repeat itself. And the good thing is that, we all have been educated enough to where we can, fight back and kind of stand for, what's ours and claim what's ours and be able to bring that education, the education we've gotten here, back to our countries where our people can know better and be able to do business and be able to stand up for what is right and claim what's ours, because there are a lot of people of different races and colors that are coming back into our countries and are taking resources and land and taking control of certain industries, and because certain people aren't educated, they feel that whatever they say is right, and and then they just got to go with it. But that's not the truth at all. We know that we always say we ain't our ancestors. We gonna fight back. So
I think that kind of leads me to my next point about the natural hair movement. I mean, recently Shea Moisture was handed over to Unilever, and what are your thoughts on that? Knowing that what Shea Moisture presented, now it's probably going to get what's the word, compromised. At least that's how I feel. Yeah.
Nothing new.
Which I think is pretty interesting though, because the owner of Shea Moisture now owns Essence, so that was kind of like a nice. I thought that was a great transition, and now Essence is like a black owned, an all black owned magazine. I mean, it was always a black magazine, but it wasn't always owned, by black people, and now. Richie Lou Dennis is the owner of Essence Magazine, so I thought that was amazing because that's a large platform. Now, in terms of the business deal with Shea Moisture and Unilever, actually didn't even know about that, so you said that.
Oh, so. Yeah. So I think it's time. I wasn't aware of him actually owning Essence Magazine either, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think the transition is like,
right. But do you think that's going to change the whole? I mean, Shea Moisture. There's a lot of bloggers who were like, okay, I'm done with Shea Moisture. I'm not gonna, mess with this product, because they had a video that came out and everyone just was like, what is this? It was like I think it was 4 women, and none of them even probably had 4C hair, because one was like mixed, it was a white girl, and it was just like, this is not Shea Moisture. So, with that being said, it's kind of like a black ownership issue. What do you guys think in the sense of colorism? Like, is it just a capitalism issue, or?
That one's tough, because I really do feel like, I mean, I don't know the whole board of Shea Moisture. I do know that we did have the owner, who I believe is of Liberian descent, and I don't know the reasons why why he sold it. And I wonder if it has something to do with him then transitioning his power into Essence. But then what ends up happening with the brand, I think, is where the concern is going to be, because I don't know if there's anyone on the board of Unilever that is of color, that would be of influence to like how Shea Moisture is managed and what's going to happen with its business. But I think that what's more important is making sure that there is something that's still coming back into the community where we feel like it's still for us and it's benefiting us, and we're proud to, like you said, like have the 4C here, or we're proud to really be able to be in the forefront with a brand that is like on a large scale that other people maybe can tap into, if it's a white girl or a Spanish girl or whatever, but it's still identified as something that was created for us, but now it's just been scaled to a larger platform. So really, honestly, I would need to really look into how they're marketing it, and what their plans are.
Yeah, I think the reason that I bring the issue up is because the platform is bigger, but it's not like a black, so that's like, how does that affect colorism with in our own community, But another issue I do want to discuss about is colorism and entertainment. There's music, there's magazine, there's Hollywood. What are your thoughts on that?
It's changing. Black Panther, I mean, of course, that has definitely, you know, giving, I guess, young people, you know, something to look forward to that I think we just didn't have back in the day. It just arose so much pride, you know, in people of darker skin color, people of Black descent, African descent. You know, it's something to look forward to for the future. It's something that is kind of paved the way, which I'm happy about. It is going to take some time to kind of saturate the industry, I would say, but we have definitely taken a step forward in regards to, you know, previous years and generations. But, you know, it's something to look forward to. I think it's definitely going to change.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a new wave where like there's just this unapologetic like force of like, we are here, we're Black, and we're going to be seen on TV, you know. And Black Panther, I feel like, was definitely huge for us, which has done over $1 billion in the box office right now, which is something to really applaud. And just I see that because we're standing so firm and confident in who we are, and we're not backing down from it. It's a lot of these like companies, like, you know, the Colgates of the world that are having all these commercials and ads and Targets. Like, if you haven't noticed, they now are targeting kind of going from like, you have the all white family that's sitting on the couch playing and laughing to like the mixed family where the mom has natural hair and she's dark skinned, and it's just like, oh, you know, it's something, and it's not everything. I mean, we're not there yet, we haven't made it by far, you know, but there's this whole new, you know, wave of, you know, like, this is more attractive now, but I don't want it to be a wave. I want it to be, you know, a standard where we're equally evaluated and considered, you know, as people who are qualified for these different roles, whether it's just being like a model, you know, a commercial actress, you know, or having a leading role, you know, in a sitcom or a daytime show or a movie. Whatever, I think that whatever roles that are supposed to be there for, you know, women of color, and just any role in general, but I'm mentioning women of color because I know in the past too, there's been some other roles that have been controversial, you know, because they weren't played by women of color, you know, that became really, that caused an uproar within our community. But it's about us standing, and then about, another thing that I thought was amazing, what's it? Amanda Seals.
Yeah, I was just like, Amanda Stanford.
Yes.
I was just gonna bring up.
Amanda. Okay. Yes. She didn't take the role in Black Panther. You know, and to me she was standing for something, and she knew, because her being a woman of lighter complexion, and not saying that she's clearly a Black woman, but she knew the message that Black Panther wanted to send, and she felt that she would be taken away from that, you know, allowing herself to be casted in a movie amongst a bunch of other dark-skinned actors. And I thought that was beautiful, because, you know, there's a time and place for everything, and she was supporting the movement in that sense. She wasn't just thinking of herself, she was thinking of the greater good of our community, which I applaud her so much for.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Okay, so actually, more into entertainment, I don't know if you guys know her, but Amara Nega, she recently got interviewed at the Breakfast Club. She's a dark-skinned Latina, and she was, you know, just bringing up the issue about colorism in entertainment. But my question is not necessarily like towards her, but like, do you guys think like people like Beyonce, Cardi B, or Nicki wouldn't be as successful if they were darker skinned? Because that's the issue's been kind of been in the air.
Honestly, well, you know what? When talent is talent, and everybody that you just named is very talented, but would they have had a harder time? Absolutely. Would they have had a harder time trying to get that exposure, or, you know, getting to the top? I 1,100% think that. And because the people who, you know, are giving them, giving them these record deals, giving them these platforms, you know, and, you know, with a lot of these, you know, record companies, they want you to have a certain look and sell a certain, you know, image. And if you're not an independent artist, a lot of things that you do are controlled. So I think that would have had a huge influence on they probably would have been underground for a little longer, you know. But it's all, not to say that they wouldn't have never broke past that barrier, but I absolutely do think that they would have had a harder time, because that's the reality of color. So.
Yeah, when you even think of like Beyonce and the group that she came from, you know, her other group members were darker skinned. And I always think, you know, why didn't Kelly make it as big as Beyonce, you know? But it's the industry that we come from and that they're in that just, you know, favors lighter skin. And so I personally think Kelly's very talented, and so I always wonder why she didn't blow up, out of that group. They're all talented, granted, but of course.
I mean, she has some stars.
She's something going on.
She's relevant.
She's relevant, but not as relevant as people.
Right.
You think?
Yeah.
No.
We might.
This topic is very touchy for everybody. So I know you're a Beyonce fan.
We're not gonna talk about Beyonce.
Right.
Beyonce's great. She's a Virgo.
I guess
she's
talking
a Virgo.
about like entertainment, it makes me want to come to like music videos and how the light skin girl is always like the main girl. So I think I want to go into Africa. Do you think African artists how are they helping or how are they not helping the issue of colorism?
I know a lot of people like within the industry in Ghana. I really do feel like it's changing. Like I don't know if you guys are familiar, but we have Ebony Reigns, who recently passed away. Her soul, rest in peace. Beautiful, chocolate, dark skin, free spirit. Just vibrant woman who was on top and rose to the top so quickly.
Yeah.
And and I know that her manager and people had to really fight for her to get to where she is. But but her image, just her being so raw and having that free spirit and that being able to carry her as far as it did, like just her presence and her personality to me spoke to the fact that we are shifting. It might not be everybody, but there I do feel like, at least I can speak for Ghana, there's been this shift towards, the chocolate, the natural, the, just the melanin, the black magic, like the black girl magic, like that is, definitely something that's being a lot more accepted now. And I do feel like, they're helping. At least the artists I know.
The artists that you know.
The artists that I know, yes.
Yeah. Any thoughts?
I totally agree. Ebony was just so beautiful and dark skin, and what a great talent. It's helping, in some ways. Some areas it's not, There's always going to be that few bunch that prefers the Western look, the lighter skin, the way the Western world does things. It's just the media. It's just the way that it's portrayed to them, and so I don't blame them. But we're starting to gain that pride back and take it back for ourselves. So I applaud them for that. For that.
And even coming from just the pageant industry, I've noticed too a lot of the queens that have been being crowned the last few years, all dark skinned women. And the pageant will have a full spectrum of light to dark, and normally. Funny, because not even just with the Ghanaian or African pageants, but even with the USA and Universe systems as well, there is this acceptance and embracing of the black woman, and the Shauna Barber being one of the big ones, that came from DC, that also won USA, and then Cara McCullough, who was the one that's outgoing Miss USA, she just them actually looking for them winning their titles has caused all these different pageant systems to now send the delegates that look like they're mixed or that are black Latinas or black Asians, and because now they're like, okay, well, we want to go with what the organization is pushing for. So them, it's made such a statement for these big industries to even highlight, these black women, and especially the chocolate women as girls who are queens and were regarded as queens. Funny enough, though. Because Deshauna was one of the first people to really break that barrier. She was met with so much, so much adversity, so many mean comments, and so much negativity, and people, saying, monkey, and just like really bad, terrible things. But she stood like such a strong, beautiful queen that she is, and I was so happy to just see her really break that mold for us. And in Ghana too, like I've been so satisfied with what I've been seeing. With them, and really crowning that authentic Ghanaian queen, that represents what that little girl sitting at home is seeing, on TV or walking down the street.
So, coming back to home, a little bit personal. Do you guys have you guys ever felt that when you're going for like an interview that your skin tone is maybe like I don't want to call it a hindrance, but that maybe affected you getting the job?
Well, I know that it comes with judgment, and just in general as a black woman, and I always say I have three things working against me. I'm young, I'm female, and I'm black, and I'm dark skinned. So it's like you always feel like you have to come in like all the way up here, like you have to come through the door like on your A game and everything has to be like perfect. And I went from that pressure of doing that to make sure I look good and have a great first impression to doing that because I wanted to I just wanted to be the best version of myself, period. And I wanted to do everything I did with excellence. And if they couldn't accept it, if they didn't like it, then it wasn't the place for me, and too bad for them. And if I made them feel insecure or uncomfortable, it's their problem. Because it's clearly like they're gonna come with their judgment and bias and, oh, this is a black woman, or let's see, like, what she's capable of. But I know what I'm capable of, and I think that that's where more of our empowerment needs to be geared towards being comfortable in your skin and knowing what you're capable of, regardless of what people are seeing and are saying and are feeling about you. Because if you let people control your happiness, you will never be happy. So it's had an impact, but you have to take charge.
Okay. I feel definitely the same way. You can't ignore the fact that there is the prejudice that's there. It's in their minds. You're already aware of that when you're going to an interview. So sometimes it can be intimidating when you're sitting in front of white people that are like, what do you have to offer? And on top of that, they're looking at your skin color. And you may not be as proud already of what you look like. So it's very intimidating. But as she said, I had to come out of that and just get over it and just say that I'm going to present the best self of myself, the best version of myself. I'm going to let them know what skills I have and why I'm capable of this job. It takes effort. You just have to kind of focus on what you're good at, but what you are as a person, who you are as a person, as opposed to what you look like. And so it takes time.
Absolutely.
So before I ask the final question, I just want to ask you guys, what do you guys have to say about the men or even the women who come at you and be like, "Oh, you're pretty for a black girl, or dark skin,"
I hate that comment.
Right.
Oh, it's the worst thing ever. I mean, honestly, funny, I haven't heard it lately. But for a while, that was the comment. It was really the comment. And I never knew at first. It's like you didn't know how to take it because it's like, okay, you're giving me a comment, but you're not really giving me a comment because you're putting me in a category. Okay, there's beautiful, and then there's dark skin girl beautiful. You are the dark skin girl beautiful, but it's like, why isn't that a part of the general, the general conversation? And why are you putting me in a box?
And it's usually from like our people.
Yeah. You're so pretty for a dark skin girl. Like, I can't believe people used to think like that. Like, I don't understand. I really don't get it.
It's our mentality. It goes back to what we've been conditioned to believe about ourselves. And it's unfortunate that sometimes these things start from black men and the way that black women perceive themselves. We see that it seems like they prefer lighter skin most times, and so it's like when they come across a beautiful black woman, they're like, oh wow, they're like,
actually,
like
I'll
it doesn't
consider
exist.
you.
Right.
I normally don't, but I'm gonna consider you.
Like your type,
I've gotten that sometimes too.
It's just
interesting. Like, I don't normally date dark skin girls, but you beautiful. What?
Yeah, it just kind of shows their mentality. The mentality amongst our black men that perpetuates a lot of things within our black women. It's sad, but.
So, for the final question, how can we deal with the issue of colorism in a much more comprehensive way? I mean, I know there's movements, but how can we really deal with that?
Well, I always go back to education, because ignorance is it's a huge problem, and it starts at home, and it starts with what the images that we are putting out there and what we're representing, because people imitate what they see, especially like younger children. You have siblings, or if you have children, or whatever environment you're coming from. Sometimes in our actions and even in our conversations, we don't realize that we're perpetuating these ideals, but and it's being picked up on from people around us, even from people who aren't black, and they hear us speaking, or they see us doing certain things, or if we're putting together events and things, and they see how, even when we have talk shows, things like this, right? Where it's like they see who's being represented, and it's like they see that we're holding that standard, so they continue to hold that standard, right? So really just being able to educate on how it's really impacted us in our community, and having conversations like this with friends, with loved ones, with at events and conferences as well, but also just like while we sitting, talking and eating. Like let's
Yeah,
talk some
chop
real
and
stuff.
talk.
Let's chop and talk because that's really where, you know, a lot of debates and ideas are changed, and you learn so much just from each other, and we're not even realizing sometimes that we're battling the same thing sitting right next to somebody right next to you, right? So just being open, being able to have safe spaces where we can talk about these things, and then talk about strategies of making sure we're representing ourselves in a proper way. We're conscious of how we're putting ourselves in the forefront, and then conscious of what we're telling like our siblings and our children and people around us, and what we're showing the industry, standing up against something when we know it's not right, not just taking every opportunity because we feel like, you know, we're gonna win, but it's the community winning, you know. And I know it's like sometimes like, yeah, I mean, we all gotta eat, we gotta pay rent and all that. So I'm not saying like, you know, go be homeless, but there's some things that you really have to think strategically about.
Yeah, just having conversations that are more productive as opposed to divisive. You know, sometimes we tend to have that in our communities, Black communities. You know, we have discussions, but then they don't really get anywhere because then they become, you know, kind of personal issues where we're going back and forth. You know, it kind of brings me back to when, what is it, Black girls for colored girls, for dark girls, I'm sorry, came out.
Okay.
And then there was the for light girls that came out, and then it became like this kind of battle between dark girls and light girls, and so that automatically just became divisive to what the whole purpose of those documentaries were for. And so we could just have conversations that just unite us as Black people, to make us one, to know that, you know, so to let outsiders see that we are one.
Exactly.
And that we're more powerful as one. You know, we could just go so much further than you know,
so
where we're
much.
going.
Well, guys, we are out of time, but I'm actually gonna end this a little bit differently. Could you guys individually just share a little bit word of encouragement for maybe a young girl, any girl who's gonna watch this who is struggling with colorism? Just short and encouragement to, you can go first and then you can go ahead.
Okay. Well, I hope that you really were able to understand some of the educational foundations as to why colorism even exists. But just remember that no one is you. That is your power. And you have to own your power. You have to be confident in it, and know that you create your own standard of what you should be striving for, and no one else does. So anyone else that tells you otherwise is uncomfortable because you're confident, and you let your light shine. That's it. You just have to let your light shine.
Yeah, so just with everything that, you know, is going on in our society, things are changing. I just hope that you guys are able to see yourselves in a different light. You know, look at the media pictures and what they're presenting of us now, and just have hope for yourself in the future that you can also be a part of, you know, the changing and the perception of what we look like, and just be proud of who you are. Own yourself, own your skin color, and, you know, don't let anyone try to put you down for it.
Well, guys, that is it, and I'm so honored that you guys were able to join us. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share, comment, and what are you doing about colorism in your community? So thank you so much, and this is Wendy, and I'll see you next time with another great hot topic. Bye.